Hello, this is Ryan again, jumping in here from the future. In the original airing of this episode, we had the Nightbreed main theme right here. In order to respect the rights holders, we've removed it from the episode. I recommend you listen to the Nightbreed soundtrack. Thanks for understanding. Hi, everybody, and welcome to the 9th episode of the Clive Barker podcast. Today we have Roger Boyes.
Hello.
And our co-host, Jose Leitao.
Hi there.
I'm Ryan Danhauser, and today we have a super special guest, Ann Bobby, the co-star of the movie Nightbreed.
Hey, what's up?
All right, so, today we're talking about Nightbreed and the Occupy Midian movement. I guess I would say let's start out with what is our first memory of Nightbreed. Roger, what about you?
I can't really tell. It's like always been there, really. I don't know. I don't remember where I first saw it, but it's just, I just remember all those monsters and stuff, and I don't know, really. It's weird.
And Jose, what about you?
Oh, yeah, I got a good story to tell about that. I started out, I think, by seeing pictures of the movie, because this came out in 1990, so I was like 14 years old at the time. So I didn't get to see the movie first, but I saw pictures of the movie in magazines. Then I read the comic books that came out. And in 93, I think, I was vacationing in Canada, and that's where I bought the Cabal book. My copy actually has a beautiful cover. I might scan it for the show notes, because it's got like Laurie and Boone escaping from Midian, and it's burning behind them. So, and then I read the book, and I was like completely surrendered to the story. And after that, I saw the movie. So, and I bought the tape.
Well, for me, it was a friend. I was sort of sheltered, growing up, so I didn't really see any horror movies at all. But I went over to a friend's house, and he had rented Nightbreed. And the VHS back then, this is like right when it first came out, had that intro by Clive Barker.
Oh, yeah. Love that.
Yeah, and it's like I had always had this sort of secret love for monsters, and seeing him do that introduction and talk about, monsters, as the good guys, and I was just totally engrossed the whole way through the movie. And even though obviously the movie has left a lot of things out, I think that we're all here because we loved even the original movie, and, when we get the extended cut, we'll love it even more. So, from there I started buying, I bought Cabal because I had to know more about Clive Barker, and I bought the Books of Blood, and my whole collecting binge started there. I was about the same age as you, Jose. I was 14.
Yeah.
I think, or 15. I'm 37 now, so I don't know how that works out, but...
Yeah, well, Cabal was my first Clive Barker book, actually. After that, it was The Great and Secret Show, but, that's for another episode.
So, Anne, we saved yours for last because you probably have a way better story than all of us.
Well, actually, my very first experience of Nightbreed was my very first meeting with Clive, and we met at a casting agent's office, Todd Baylor, on 57th Street in New York City, and I read the script and was completely pulled in. I don't know if any of you have ever been to New York, but New Yorkers always feel a little bit removed from the rest of the world, and as a New Yorker, I just sort of was pulled into the mythology of, just sort of people who are isolated from what you consider the rest of the world, the normal world, and that just pulled me right in. And I was always a fan of Clive. I was a huge fan of Books of Blood, which I had read many years prior. And I just sort of walked into this meeting, and Clive was in this tiny little room with poor Todd smoking a cigar and, sort of killing Todd in this little room. So, of course, I immediately started smoking, and we just sat and started talking about the script. And the air got thicker and thicker and thicker in more ways than one, and we just had such an awesome time talking about, his ideas for the creatures and the sort of parallels to Greek mythology, which is what I was really very into at the time. I actually went on to study classics, and so we just got on like a house on fire. And and after that, I sat down and read Cabal, and was completely captivated. What a mind you've got! And I knew that no matter what, I really had to do this movie.
Wow! So you were involved in it pretty early on.
Yeah, very early on.
So there was actually, this is a question that Jose and I were just talking about. I had just noticed on IMDb that it credits Laurie as Laurie Deschinger, but in the movie they call you Miss Winston. Yeah,
isn't that weird? I actually, it was in watching the cut over at Mad Monster 2 weeks ago. I went, what is that? Yeah, and I don't know if maybe that was some sort of later thing.
Yeah, and I can't remember.
Has anyone ever dropped that over to Clive and seen what he says?
No, I think that's a good idea, though. Maybe I'll ask Mark about that.
Yeah, that's actually a really good idea.
So, so for you, it was always Winston?
Yeah, it was Winston to me, but I knew in the book, as the singer, and again in the mythology, sort of one of the sort of clarion callers of this. It always made sense to me. And then in the script, I remember actually when we were shooting it, like, I wonder why I'm Winston now. That's all right.
Yeah,
when you're doing a film, you just sort of go, there's got to be a reason for everything that's being done.
Yeah. I was just reading the script, and it says Winston on the script. So yeah, and I don't know where the singer came from. So
yeah, and I guess the Winston, that's in the interview scene with
Joyce and Decker, right?
Yeah, with Joyce and Decker, of course.
Oh, one thing is, I on the last podcast, when I was talking about new characters and the character that had met up with Joyce after at the crime scene, I was actually wrong. He's not a new character. He's the same guy that performs the autopsy. We're just not used to seeing him, talking to the camera and up close like that, I guess.
Oh my God! You know what? You're right. Oh my gosh!
Morton, I think, is his name.
Yes.
He was. Yeah. I think his isn't his scene pulling the bullets out of Boone sort of goes concurrent with your interview scene, which is actually a lot longer in the Cabal cut.
So much of the Cabal cut. I mean, everything is so much longer in the Cabal cut. This is. I couldn't believe. I actually showed it to Chris Claremont as soon as I got back, and he couldn't believe the difference in the film. He was freaking out. He's like, it's a totally different movie.
Yeah, and I, seeing this, I kind of I feel a little bit like your character was robbed, a little.
I was robbed.
Yeah, well, I mean, I just in the original movie, it seemed like Laurie was more kind of chasing Boone around, and there's not as much development of the relationship, and kind of trying to be careful with Boone's, sort of fragile state of mind, and then the connection to the Nightbreed.
Sure. And Ryan, I never even intended this to be like some sort of not too clunky segue, but actually, it makes sense now. We're talking about getting the Cabal cut available to people, getting it screened, getting it seen.
Yeah.
Doing this the Occupy Midian movement, but in a way. You think about the Occupy movements that have been born over the last year.
Yeah.
And you see, authority, you see people in power sort of looking at those movements and going, we don't know what to do with it.
Yeah.
We don't know. how to react to people who are just saying this is what we want. We no longer want what was in front of us. We want what we know is out there for us.
Yeah.
Exactly,
And you know, I mean, that was kind of what happened with the movie. They were sort of like, we really don't know what to do with this idea of misfits as heroes.
Yeah, it's like they felt like the world wasn't ready for that.
Yeah, you know what?
In some ways,
you know, it was... I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that in some ways, Nightbreed, the movie, was a movie which was a little before its time, because in the early 90s, well, this was filmed in 89, right? So the concept of movies with monsters where the monsters are the good guys, that just came into popularity in the mid-90s. So Nightbreed was one of the one that opened the door for that whole, like, monsters can be good guys, and, you know, so I think that's what I think about the movie.
I mean, there's certainly been references to that in the past. I mean, there's no greater example. I mean, you know, look at Frankenstein, look at Freaks. I mean, the idea of that. But the idea, what Clive did was Clive just sort of just elaborated on that, and it wasn't just one monster, one creature, or a group of traveling freaks. It's an entire city that draws people from all over the world who have something in them.
I usually refer to Midian as like Wonderland in an ossuary.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. Oh, that's wonderful.
There's a little bit of more of a feel of that, too, as you're, I think as Laurie is walking in the Cabal cut, as Laurie is walking, across the bridges and through Midian to get to Boone at the Tabernacle.
Yeah.
It's like in the original cut, she just kind of gets straight there almost. I mean, there's a little bit of seeing all the kind of the different monsters, but it's way longer, and you get you get more of a feel of how vast Midian is in the Cabal cut.
I wish that everyone could actually see what that was like, what A Stage was like over at Pinewood Studios. It was extraordinary. That set. And all their little individual corridors that were around it. You wouldn't believe what that place was like. And actually, when I first got there, the very first thing that happened was everything was put on hold right away because there was a fire on that stage.
Oh, geez.
Oh.
Yeah, so we sort of, I showed up in London, and the producer, Christopher Figg, said, well, enjoy London because we have to rebuild part of this set.
Oh, wow.
I think one of the sons of the Free got to the set.
I'm sorry?
Yeah. I think one of the sons of the Free got to the set.
Yeah.
It jumped the shark.
And that was amazing. The Sons of the Free outside the police station, we made more use of the exteriors of Pinewood Studios and our production offices. So
how much time was spent in England filming? I mean, because people have said that it was filmed in Canada, but or that at least parts of it were filmed in Canada.
Almost, I would say 95, 97% of the film was shot in London.
Oh, okay.
The exteriors were shot, some of the exteriors were shot in Canada. All the approaches to Midian, the death of Boone, Decker, the death of Cheryl Ann, all of that was shot in London.
Oh, okay.
On a back lot at Pinewood Studios. The driving shots were shot in Canada, in Calgary. Mm. There were a few sort of, we used some helicopter shots and things like that. All of that was shot in Canada. Whenever you see mountains and, forests and stuff, that's Canada. It's not a lot.
Okay.
I would say at the end of, in fact, at principal shooting, when principal shooting wrapped, Greg didn't even come to Canada. I was the only actor to go to Canada, I think.
Oh.
Oh, wow. So even like So were the actors American or Canadian? Like the guys with the buffalo hats and stuff. They were all in England. Oh,
wow.
Yeah. There's just like there is in America. There's a very large American expatriate community.
Gotcha.
In England, Catherine Chevalier, I believe, was American. She might have been Canadian.
And she's Rachel, right?
Rachel, yeah.
Yeah, and I had never even known that her voice was dubbed until I saw the Cabal cut.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, 3/4 of that cut of the movie has her natural voice, and then the stuff that they used from the existing movie went back to the, that voice, and that story you told was funny about the coffee lady.
The crazy coffee lady, yeah. She's at the time, she was one of the most popular voice artists in the UK. She was the voice of this coffee commercial, and there were several, and she had this very exotic accent, and they got her to dub Catherine, to dub Rachel. And it was crazy when I first saw a screening of it. I was like, what happened to Catherine?
Yeah.
Shortly followed by, what happened to Doug?
Yeah, yeah.
And here's a little known piece of trivia, which is that Catherine Chevalier also played in Hellraiser 2. She played the mother of Tiffany. Yeah.
Yes, she was. She was Tiffany's mom. There was like 2 shots. It was like a quick shot of her, wasn't it?
She says,
"Yeah,
help my daughter."
And then
help my daughter, doctor. That's right.
Yeah. And then
that made me very grateful. Watching that movie made me very grateful that I said I wouldn't work with maggots, because I saw that Clive was serious about maggots.
Yeah.
I'd never been so specific about things that I wouldn't work with. Roaches, maggots.
That reminds me, in the QA panel at Mad Monster, you had said that they were going to have you transforming into a creature, but you didn't like or you had trouble with the prosthetics. What was that supposed to look like?
It's sort of, I believe it was supposed to be sort of not a mirror image, but a reference to Boone Cabal. Sort of
like a female counterpart? Like a female counterpart?
A female counterpart, yeah. Sort of these drilled whirls and swirls and...
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I think that I've noticed this recently watching the movie again, that you can actually tell those swirls are also on Peliquin's face and his chest. Sometimes it's hard to notice, but they're there. So another one of those references that it's all connected, like Peliquin bites Cabal, and then he also gets the same kind of markings. So it's really nice.
Oh, there was...
That's really fun. I never noticed that. There was so much going on Nat. On Ollie's face. I mean, he was crazy.
I have an early draft of the screenplay, and I didn't get to read it all again last night, but I stopped at the part where where Laurie is leaving Cheryl at the car and just starting to walk through towards Midian. And Laurie says, Laurie makes a joke. She says, "With my luck, I'll end up buying some real estate." Was that ever in the version that you had?
Oh my God! Of course it was. And as you said that, of course it was. I totally remember saying that line.
I wonder if maybe they thought that didn't fit with the tone, or I don't know.
It's such a crazy thing. What actually gets sort of thrown under the bus of time constraints in a film is astonishing. But as you said that, I remember even saying that line.
Huh.
So much gets cut. I wish that you could see everything that vanishes from the film.
Yeah.
But I'm remembering that completely. I remember walking toward the car, toward that horrible station wagon that broke down every other take.
Oh, really?
Oh, God. I mean, even as I remember walking up to it going, how the hell is this American station wagon that had to get somehow brought over to the UK going to ever start? And, of course, it didn't. It broke down constantly.
Oh, because the steering wheel had to be on the left side.
Of course.
Oh, yeah.
And it was just, and, you know, there it was in the middle of Buckinghamshire and breaking down every other take. We spent more time just waiting for someone to fix that car. Stopping the car.
Yeah.
There
I think
was
that
noise out there.
I think
Was
that
it actually shown
ultimately,
driving?
I'm sorry?
Was it actually shown driving in the film, or just? I just remember it.
Oh,
being,
yeah. I mean,
out.
there were moments where, you know, it's basically, well, again, this is where you go to continuity. You know, there's an overview cut of me driving, you know, in Canada, and then I'm pulling up. Basically, you'll see close-ups of cars pulling up to spots, and in films you don't know this, but basically the actor is driving the car to a spot where there are like 5,000 sandbags where you know to stop the car, and that's the mark where the camera's picking up on you. And that's inevitably.
Sorry.
I'm sorry?
Oh, no, sorry. I was just gonna say, and also there was a scene that was cut out where Laurie comes to pick up Cheryl, and Cheryl says, "Can we stop? Can we stop for aspirin?"
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. I remember that.
So there's a lot of little cuts that they did. You know,
Yeah.
I think that ultimately the scenes that got cut, because Ryan was saying that he was reading the script last night, and I also read the script. But Ryan's is the second draft. Mine is the one that comes in the making of the film book, which is full of scene deleted lines.
And there are
but
some
I think that
in even the earliest drafts. I think there's some scenes deleted.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. But I think ultimately in the scenes that got cut, you know, Laurie was a much better character. I mean, she had much more characterization. I can't believe that they left out the Johnny Be Angry or Get Angry musical number. That would tell us, you know, what she actually does and show us Laurie, you know, being more of herself in her daily life. And we never really know what she does in the movie. That's one of the things. And just like Boone, I mean, I know that Boone shows up welding, so. Yeah. But we don't really know what they do in the movie. It's like, hey, they're in the room, they're at their house, they're like kissing, and what do they do?
Yeah,
Who are they?
It was like somebody decided that the backstory of these characters wasn't important.
Right.
And actually, I mean, and in doing that, what I also found so wonderful is in expanding the Cabal cuts and seeing them at their work and seeing them together and just sort of being present, not just advancing plot or laying down establishing points. You really see that they are, well, that Laurie is passionately in love with this man.
Oh, yeah.
And I would imagine it would be pretty difficult.
In the book, Laurie is she walks on eggshells around Boone because I think that Laurie in the movie plays a strong kind of woman that can save a man from himself despite all odds. She loves Boone because he has something special about himself. He's a little haunted, but he's the sanest man she ever met. So I think that in the book, the Nightbreed Chronicles, I think Clive Barker wrote for Laurie's backstory that she's obsessed by a dead man, drawn into the darkness of Midian by that obsession, and finally she is lost to it, you know.
But I also think there's something really powerful, and a friend of mine who was with me, who came to the screening, pointed out the fact that if you consider with Eastern philosophy, yin and yang, we have masculine and feminine energy going through us at all times. Mm-hmm. There's a really wonderful counterbalance between Laurie and Boone. In some ways, in their relationship, Laurie's very masculine. You know, she takes on the rescuer. She goes and rescues Boone, so that Boone can rescue his people.
And she rescues him several times. The first of which is from his bad dreams of Midian. She rescues him when she wakes him up, and then from she rescues him from Midian, and then finally from taking on the role of the inaccessible lone messiah.
Yeah.
So
when he's in jail, feeling sorry for himself.
I think that's something that Clive really sort of covered in the Cabal cut that I think they just sort of wanted to avoid at all costs. It was certainly one of the first things to go on the chopping block in the original cut. Just this idea of, you know, Laurie taking on a very proactive role. She's Boone's protector.
Absolutely. She drives all the way to Midian to find his body because she thinks that some pervert is using it as a plaything. So she goes all the way to Midian to see if she can find Boone's body, and then she finds Boone.
Yeah. And I think that's a great parallel to, you know, the people who are finding their own inner sources of strength.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's something that Clive really touched on in a big way, and that I got to really see in that director's cut, which I had never been able to see fully drawn out. You know, she is a hero.
Yeah.
She is, yeah.
At least she is in this cut.
Yeah.
And if I can say something, in the Wall of Prophecy, which was supposed to be in the movie in a more extended form, at the end of the movie, she was supposed to show up in the wall with Boone on a hilltop as, you know, the couple, Boone and his lover, and they would be both in the Wall of Prophecy. So Laurie would also be a part of the prophecy. She would be much more important. And now that you've mentioned that they were going to put some makeup on you to make you more like a little counterpart of Boone, that would have been wonderful.
And
all the pieces would have, you know, come together.
And, you know, we actually did do some painted makeup. But again, that still hasn't made its way into the final. I'd love to. Boy, I really need to have a talk with Clive. I really need to talk to him and find out what all else is missing.
There was also something I'd noticed, even in the Cabal cut, like in the script, Boone tries to kill himself, right? He throws himself in front of the truck. And even in the Cabal cut, that wasn't clear that he did that on purpose.
I thought that was interesting, too.
Yeah.
Yeah, in the book, we get a much more obvious suicide attempt. Like, Boone goes home after talking to Decker. He burns everything. He burns the pictures that Decker gave him.
And that's
he
in
leaves
the
note.
Cabal cut.
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
Oh, fantastic. So he leaves a note saying, all wrong, keep this, burn the rest, and then he goes and he throws himself in front of a truck. So
that's fair. The fire is there, and he's tripping as he's doing it. But what's missing is the sense that he is consciously ending his life.
Yeah.
You know, that he's attempting to end his life.
It feels,
that is still missing.
It felt more like this drug-induced kind of a weird, like, freaking out kind of a thing.
Yeah,
right.
Totally correct, yeah.
Yep.
I think there's a certain look of determination in his eyes, though, in that last second when he's facing the truck and the headlights are blasting on his face. I think there's a certain look of determination, like he knows that, you know, he knows what's coming and he wants it to happen. But yeah, it's not as obvious, of course.
And in the script, he tells the nurse, I can't even kill myself.
Right.
Oh, it's the ball cut?
Yeah, well, no, not in, no, it's in the script.
In the original script, I remember that.
So yeah, the Midian, the Cabal cuts. Yeah, I mean, Ryan is the only one here that has seen the Cabal cut, and of course, and Bobby. I mean, me and Roger, we haven't seen it yet. I really can't wait. It's what's fueling my desire to be part of Occupy Midian, and it's what's making me do my best to help out the cause. Well, but yeah, can't wait for it to have more screenings.
And Occupy Midian.
Well, you know what? So I guess one of the things that I would say is there are a lot of things that we could do. I mean, maybe we should put together a little video of people putting clips up of themselves.
Yeah.
Putting together a video and setting it up, saying, and get people to post their pleas onto the site, saying, this is why.
I've seen a couple of people who did that on YouTube, actually. I need to post those videos on the wall.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's interesting.
Yes, one of the members of the group called Oliver Lowther, he's English, he made a video, and I just saw that last night. He's asking for people to sign the petition, and he's asking for more awareness of the Cabal cut. I'm going to post that on the wall.
There's, as of this recording, there are 885 members in that group.
Oh, my God. Wow.
There was one time when I checked in, and it said that there were 116 people waiting to be added. And so I was like, okay, accept, and then, and then other people were doing it too, so I only had to do like 15 of them, but...
Wow.
Yeah. So
I've been doing that all day.
407 people have signed the petition also.
That's
wow.
Yeah. So I mean, considering a couple of years ago, there was 1,000 people signed the petition over the course of 3 years.
It was like 900 people that had signed it from 2009 to the present date, and then I talked to Revelations about it, and they were like, "Yeah, we wouldn't really send people to that petition because it's too old. Would you like to try your hand at starting a new petition?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure, let's do it." So, I talked to you guys and went on iPetitions, and we got that text going, and we put it up. And in less than 2 weeks, how many people, Ryan?
885. Oh, in the first, you mean as of right now?
Yeah.
Yeah, 885. Oh, 407 on the petition. Yeah. 407.
Wow, that's amazing.
I think it would be a really awesome idea for people to just start to post images of themselves. Not unlike, you know what? Follow the Occupy Wall Street movement. Post a photo of you with a sign saying why.
Yeah, like
why Nightbreed should be back. Put it up.
And it seems to me like a lot of things are really falling into place right now to make this work. Like, I think, first of all, it was great when I was there when you came up with the name. I think that name really kind of resonates.
Yep.
So that
there's
that.
I have to say, it is born of. I am deeply involved in the Occupy Wall Street movement. It is a movement that that is dear to my heart. I cook for Occupy Wall Street.
Oh.
It was born in my backyard, and I'm so impressed with, politics aside. I think that, if you put politics aside, no matter what you feel about what's happening in the world, the fact that this disparate group of people have such a passion for an idea that they can change the world is just the most empowering, delicious, powerful. I mean, that the idea when I sat at Mad Monster and talked to people who just said, we really want to see this, it just sort of synced up with me, and I said, well, then occupy.
Yeah.
And
occupy, make it happen. We have never been more powerful.
Yeah, and it's
in this
like
age of technology to make things happen that we want to see happen.
And Mark Miller reviving this whole movement with, getting the footage together, and then and the people at Revelations helping out with the footage and sorting through all of Clive's stuff, and we've got
Russell is cutting away Russell is cutting away as we speak. I have absolutely no doubt that he has foregone dinner and is sitting, working stuff out as we speak.
He's put so much of his own time into that movie. I mean, and you can tell that he took something that was really difficult to put all together and to make that for us, which was incredible.
And that's a physical thing.
He and Mark are just warriors, complete warriors. And we owe them all so much gratitude.
I couldn't believe how well the sound all married together. Because
can you believe that? I know. I was freaked out.
Because I was expecting, oh God, I'm going to have to strain my ears whenever all of those VHS scenes come in. But you couldn't even tell that if you had your eyes closed, you wouldn't even know the difference.
And it was odd because, the film was very watery and not adjusted, but damn if that sound wasn't amazing.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if they could do, surround sound with it or anything, but it was incredible.
And it's a real testament to the very, very dear man who was running sound while we were filming that. His name is John Midgley.
Oh.
And John was fantastic, and that was a very, very difficult film to record sound on for so many reasons, not least of which is Pinewood Studios is about 15 minutes away from Heathrow Airport.
Oh, and Simon told us a really funny story when they were doing Hellraiser there.
The ducks.
There were ducks in a pond that kept quacking while they were trying to record.
Can you imagine the Cenobites? The Cenobites going like, "We'll take your soul to hell," and the ducks going like, "Quack, quack, quack."
Quack, quack, quack. So much for instilling everyone with a sense of fear.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. I love it.
He said, and mysteriously one day the ducks were gone.
Yeah. Oh, yes, that's their story, and they're sticking to it, I'm sure.
So you didn't have any duck problems there for Nightbreed?
God, I loved hanging with Simon and Frank.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Frank the dog.
Beautiful Frank. Oh, he was so great.
For the people who don't know who Frank is, Frank was the little dog that Simon Banford had as Onaka.
Yes, and he belonged to a second AD.
He's like he's like a Boston Terrier, right?
He's a Boston Terrier, and he belonged to one of the second assistant directors, and everyone loved him, and he got into that movie, and he became one of the Nightbreed. He was sensational. We loved Frank.
Yeah, I noticed that he's not in the script.
He didn't get a credit at the end?
Well, I don't know, but he's not. I mean, in the screenplay, he's not in there.
Oh, no. That Frank was just one of those happy coincidences.
that added a lot of personality to Midian.
And a lot of humanity, actually. Oddly enough, a dog added humanity to the film. But isn't that always the case? We cry for animals more than we cry for people.
You wrote 2 books about dogs, right? Love Me or Leash Me, Best Friend for Life, and Best Friend for Life, right?
Absolutely. I've devoted a lot of my life. That was actually that was the thing that made me cry so friggin' hard at Mad Monster. Years after I did Nightbreed, I became very involved in animal rescue, which I'm still very involved in. And seeing myself in that extended cut rescuing Babette.
Oh, yeah.
It was like I found myself watching myself do something that 5 years later was going to become an extremely important part of my life. I was rescuing an animal.
And it was really moving. And for those who haven't seen it, it was Babette is, of course, lying there suffering in the sun, and Lori comes up to Babette and is trying to figure out how she can help, but she just it doesn't occur to her, of course, that it's because she's in the sun. She's like asking her questions, and what can I do? What is it? What do you need? And I don't remember all. I mean, I wish I'd seen it more than once, but
No, but you've actually nailed it. And
I was actually
and literally this is what happens now when I find myself dealing with a wild dog or a feral cat. I now do that on a regular basis, and it's so much a part of me. I've written books on my experiences of it, but watching myself as like a 20-year-old doing something that 10 years later I would be doing on it
that's cool.
Broke me apart.
What's really interesting is that the making of the film book has a picture of Babette's father. Babette's father was a werewolf, and there's actually a picture here in black and white in the book. I'm looking at it right now. That after the Sons of the Free invade Midian, they shoot him, and Babette. We see the picture of Babette sitting next to her dead father, who's who's a werewolf. And I think he's the same one that shows up in the opening credits of Nightbreed.
With his eyes flashing.
Yeah, with his eyes flashing. So that you didn't see that
at the very end of the credits.
Yeah.
Oh, in the beginning, and the opening credits when you see the Wall of Prophecy, and then you see a spider and a jar, and there's a wolfman there.
And that's Babette's father. Oh my God, you're right.
Yeah, she was supposed to be half werewolf, half smoke creature. So.
That's right. That's
really
right.
Cool.
Half werewolf, half smoke creature, which was what always kind of freaked me out. That, like, you know, she was walking around with kittens. I'm like, a werewolf would never have anything to do with a kitten.
And she was holding a little doll.
Unless it was sort of as like popcorn shrimp or something.
Yeah, and she had a little doll in the picture in the Nightbreed Chronicles. She's holding a doll that's got the body of a girl, but then she's got one arm and one head. They're a dog arm and dog head. Yeah. And there were two girls playing Babette.
Those little girls were wonderful. They were twins.
Oh.
Babette was played by two girls, and one was a bit more outgoing and energetic and sort of up to a challenge, and she was the one who wore all the prosthetics. And the other was more soulful and mournful, and she was the one who was sort of there for book scenes.
Well, Anne, I think if you're getting low on time, we did have some people that had some questions for you.
Okay, absolutely. Okay. Absolutely. Fire away.
All right. So, David, the one that you sang for in the last...
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So he says, I'd like to know if Clive told you anything about your character's history to help, and what was Clive like as a director?
Clive didn't tell me a whole lot about her. That we weren't already on sort of a similar wavelength about.
Okay.
Once he told me that, you know, he loved that I was a singer, he wanted someone who was very strong. Clive and I both come from a theater background.
Right.
And I think that was really how he was speaking to me as a director. It was almost like we were doing a play, except there happened to be cameras in the room. Okay. And I loved that so much because it was such a deeply theatrical film. And we both knew when there were moments to do sort of film acting, but most of the moments were just genuinely theatrically extraordinary. And he and I really communicated on that wavelength completely.
Okay.
It was interesting because if you really think about it, these characters were all in prosthetics, so while they were extraordinary to look at, the humanity of them had to be conveyed from the outside in a lot of ways. It was in our perception of them, and Laurie spoke for the audience. So much of what I was doing was just experiencing it. And in some ways as a theatrical actor, and in some ways as a member of the audience.
And he also... sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead, please.
Simon Bamford, when we talked to him, he had mentioned that Clive told him that he had plans for the sequel to where Simon would play Onaka's twin sister, which is great.
Right. Yes.
Yes. Did he have anything that he told you about a sequel for Laurie's character, for the character Laurie?
No, he did. I mean, I knew there was always talk of a sequel because it was just so incredible. And my whole feeling about Clive, and it still is one of complete trust. Whatever is meant to happen, whatever he puts together, he's going to put together. Oh, God, poor Simon, the day those condoms exploded, that was the most insane moment. What? He did such a great job.
What was that?
Simon didn't tell you about the exploding condoms?
No.
No.
Okay, you know how Anaka dies? He's dragged into the sun, and he has to explode into clouds of dust. Well, the only way to make that dust happen, this is before the days of CGI, kids, it actually had to happen on him, was to have the earth packed in him, the dust. And what they did was they sort of lined his back with these condoms that were filled with Fuller's Earth, which is like dust. And they had little charges. And he got in the sun, and he finally exploded. And the condoms exploded, and the dust exploded.
Wow.
He didn't tell you that.
He's really brave.
Wow. He had no shirt or anything either, did he?
Yeah.
When these went off?
It was, well, here's the thing. I mean, basically what would happen is there were various stages, and these actors were all not just wonderful actors, but very patient people, because they all had to go through various stages of makeup. So he went through a stage of being healthy and in pain, writhing in the sun. Then he went through a stage of makeup showing him being burned and charred. And then there was probably a scene where they basically lined these condoms on his back, and you never really saw them because all you caught in the final cut was the moment of explosion.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
But yeah, that's how they did it. And
that's amazing.
See, this is the thing about me doing Nightbreed. All these guys were getting up at 3 a.m. and getting these prosthetics on. I just had to show up. So I got to really see what was going on. I watched everything. I wasn't sleep deprived or, covered in prosthesis. I was basically watching everything happening.
And Simon felt that way too, because he was because he had been so heavily made up in costumed in Hellraiser that he felt such a relief to be Onaka.
Yeah,
just some
it was kind of a thrill, and you've actually just reminded me of something that I can't believe I've forgotten. But one of the very last days of filming Nightbreed, I had spent so much time on that set and learned so much about how to compose a shot, what angles would be necessary, how to light the shot. One of the very last days, Robin Vidgen, our extraordinary director of photography, turned to me and said, how would you like this shot?
Oh, wow.
And I told him, because I had learned so much just being present on that set, watching things happen. It was a very, very magical time.
Oh.
Wow.
I don't like to use the word lucky, because lucky implies that you're not contributing, that somehow you're an unwitting participant.
Right,
but,
like you just kind of fall into it.
Yeah, but you know what? When it comes to Nightbreed and filming this, I was lucky. I was a very, very lucky girl.
Well, we were lucky, too, to have you in the movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So he also asks if there are any more conventions, or would you be willing to? Are you going to do you have any plans to go to any more conventions if they have more with this showing?
I actually am. You know what? I this was my first convention at Mad Monster. Was my very first as a panelist. I've been for friends. I've gone and visited lots of my friends. Thanks to Clive, I've gotten to know so many wonderful horror, sci-fi, comic, fantasy writers, authors, artists. But yeah, I am planning to go to. I know Clive is talking about doing a couple of cons this year, and I plan to go to those. Certainly to start.
Okay. Do you know a friend of mine that I kind of grew up with? I just found out that he's also really into Nightbreed. And he wrote to me and said, I've been listening to your podcast, and do you think you could ever get Christine McCorkindale, who played Shuna Sassy? I guess he's got kind of a thing for her. So I don't. Does that? I mean, nobody has been able to find her or knows where she is. Do you know anything about her?
Not a clue. I know she was British.
Okay.
She came in at the tail end of the shoot. Not a clue, really.
Huh.
Wow. No, and that wasn't she a remarkable character? But
yeah.
No, I haven't. I have not kept in touch with her. I've kept in touch with several people. Oddly enough, Nick Vince, who played
Kinski.
And I just thanked Mad Monster, recontacted with Simon Bamford. I've stayed in touch with Pete and, of course, Clive. But no, I haven't kept in touch with her.
And
nope, not a clue.
Okay. And Jonathan Q, he's been a host sometimes on this podcast. He wanted to ask. Let's see. He was delighted to see you in Love, Loss, and What I Wore off Broadway a few years ago, and he wanted to know what your thoughts were on the experience.
I don't think he saw me in Love, Loss, and What I Wore. I think what he saw me in was I Love You, You're Perfect, Now Change, which was in the same theater.
Ah, okay.
I love theater, and I think that, again, as I was saying, I think Clive loves theater actors. I think that he is, at heart, a theater director. Mm-hmm. And theater is about the most immediate form of connection that an artist can have. There's no one in charge but you. You can get on that stage and it doesn't matter who wrote the words. If you change the words, you're changing them. Yeah. It doesn't have the audience respond to them.
And there's taking 100 takes.
I'm sorry, say that again, honey?
Yeah, and they can't make 100 takes of the scene and pick out which one they like the best.
Absolutely not. And that was actually something really cool about Clive. In directing film, he was a 3-take man. He would couple of takes and move on.
Oh, wow. Mm-hmm.
Unless it was something where it was for a sort of special effect. When it was book scenes, when it was interaction, he knew. He just sort of really trusted his actors. And theater is kind of the Olympics of acting. And for film, it's all about then just sort of tempering your skills with just trusting yourself and revealing who you are in a quiet way. All the skills are there, though. It's a great thing. If I could continue to do theater all my life and be found dead in the middle of the stage, like oh God, what's his name? He died. Oh God, the guy who was in The Producers. He played LSD.
Oh.
It's Sean. You guys are so young.
So I'm sorry.
I'm so old. It's Sean. He played LSD in the original version of The Producers with Zero Mostel and Gene Wilder, and he was doing a stage production. He was doing his act, and he feigned a heart attack and fell down and died. That's the way you want to find me.
On stage?
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, my God.
Wow,
that's quite shocking. Yeah, but I guess
it's a lovely way to wrap things up.
We had one more question for you. Claudia Glazard wants to know what's your favorite pasta recipe.
Oh, God, my favorite pasta recipe?
Yeah.
Okay, you ready? This is actually easy. And if you guys want to really impress somebody, here you go. Here's the easiest pasta recipe in the world. Take a bunch of tomatoes, chop them up, put them in a bowl, add olive oil. Add some fresh basil, add some salt, add some pepper, add some cubed smoked mozzarelle, cube up a little bit of prosciutto, and just let it sit on your counter for about an hour. Then boil some pasta, throw it in the bowl. It's going to be really hot. It's going to soften up the mozzarella. It's going to warm up the prosciutto. Just toss it up and serve it. You will have sex that night.
Wow, you just opened up my appetite. It's 8 p.m. here.
It's really easy, and it's foolproof.
Well, that's great. I'm going to have to write that down.
We'll put it on the show notes.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, good God. Oh, my God.
All right. Well, so we didn't make you miss your train, did we?
Oh, no, there's really no worry. Oh, gosh. Oh, it's 3 o'clock. Don't worry. I've got 45 minutes. I'll make it.
Okay. All right. Well, yeah.
All right, listen, you guys, you take it easy.
All right. Well, thanks,
Thank you.
Thank you. It was wonderful.
Take care. Be well. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. You know what? This was really fun.
Well, we were really honored to have you.
Yes.
Absolutely. Thank you very
All
much.
right, I'll see you guys soon. I'll see you at the premiere.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, let's hope so.
Yeah, that
and
would be
maybe
great.
this time, if they re-credit the movie, the Cabal cut, maybe Frank gets a credit.
Yeah.
I'd love that. We'll work on that.
Yeah.
Okay, you take care,
All
guys.
right, thank you.
Be well. Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
That was amazing.
Okay, so I think before we get into the news, I want to kind of go through some of the Occupy Midian stuff. So, what we're talking about when we say Occupy Midian, obviously it started. This movement to have a director's cut has been on along since the movie started, but Occupy Midian right now, it is a Facebook group. So just do a search for Occupy Midian. We've got 800 people on there, so you may probably even know somebody that's on there already.
186 right now.
Yeah, and
Hold on, let me add more. Three more.
oh,
There we go.
Excellent.
so there's that. If you're not on Facebook, and a lot of people aren't. There's also the petition that Jose started. It's ipetitions.com/petition/Nightbreed. And we'll put that in the show notes too. Of course, the website for this podcast is www.clivebarkercast.com. And we'll put all this stuff in the show notes. So Russell Charrington, who is the mastermind behind the Cabal cut, the extended edition that we have right now, that they showed at Mad Monster Party, he owns the domain name for OccupyMidian.com. So when that website goes up, it's that's going to be another place to go.
Because at some point, let me just say this, at some point, it's the number of people are limited by the amount of people that have Facebook. So if you don't have Facebook right now, if you click the link on, Rue Morgue magazine website or, Shock Till You Drop, they're putting up links to the group. But unfortunately, if you're a person who doesn't have Facebook, all you get is the Facebook login page. So that's going to change soon as Russell gets the website up. Yeah. And it's going to be an open, website for anybody who wants to visit it.
Let's see. Oh, if you use Twitter and you're talking about this, please use the hashtag Occupy Midian. So it's # and Occupy Midian, like it's all one word, and you can capitalize the O and the M if you want, but I think it all works out the same.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So go ahead and sign the petition.
Yes, please sign the petition. There are, the last I checked, which was right at the start of this recording, there were 407 signatures, which is really good since it's only been up there for like a week. I mean, that's amazing. And, we're getting press coverage. And let me kind of run through and thank all the people who have done this. So Rue Morgue did the first article. That was Ron McKenzie, and looks like it was posted by April Snelling. Thank you, Rue Morgue. Rue Morgue is an awesome horror magazine.
I think April Snelling's is a ongoing series of articles they're posting in April.
So. Okay. Okay. I thought April was a person.
No, I don't think so.
Okay. Well, thanks, Ron McKenzie, and okay. And on Shock Till You Drop, Ryan Turek put a post about this also. And we also want to thank Crystal, who does Bring Back Nightbreed.blogspot. That's been a really good website, and she's also put. Is it Reddit? Is that what it's called? Snippet, where she's collecting all the little blog posts and articles and YouTube things and everything about Occupy Midian and about Nightbreed and the extended cut and all of that stuff. And so, like, there's thedevileyes.com, killerfilm.com, rabbiddolls.com, realcreepy.tumblr.com, Cthulhu, I guess, like Cthulhu, .blogspot, dreadcentral.com.
Really?
Yeah.
There's been a few that I've missed so far. Wow, that's great.
La Mansión del Terror, I guess, .net. It was maybe it must be Spanish.
Yeah, it's Spanish.
HorrorDVDs.com, monkeypants.net, rockshockpop.com, generama.wordpress.com, scroodle.net, mutantville.com, and if I missed any, I sincerely apologize. We're trying to get all of these. This is really accelerating fast, and Roger, you only put this Occupy Midian group up a couple of weeks ago, and it's just exploded. And we're really grateful for everybody who's posted on there. And at first I felt like it was kind of my job to keep bumping the important posts up there. And just last night I saw somebody else, one of the members, put up a link to the petition, and it just made me feel really good about how much everybody feels invested in this.
Yeah. Well, I think that what is bringing so many people together to the group is that we all share this passion for Nightbreed, and we all want to make this. We want to see the fulfillment of the artistic vision that Clive had, and justify all the work that the team that it was involved in making this film, to finally get this film the proper release that it deserves, in its proper cut.
Yeah. Yeah, and of course we'd love it if Morgan Creek somehow found the original footage, but I mean they've been that's been an ongoing request for years and years. I met Clive at a book signing in '95. And I gave him my Laserdisc to sign, and I said, hey, when is the director's cut going to be on Laserdisc? And he said, very soon, and it's going to be 25 minutes longer. So this has been going on for a long, long time. So my thinking is, and probably this is what Russell is thinking as well, is that it's more likely that the Cabal cut that he's putting together, it's done, but it's ongoing. So I think that they'll continue to tweak it here and there. But that Cabal cut that they showed at Mad Monster Party, in some form or another, that's probably what would end up being on a double disc set, with hopefully an HD release of the original, of the theatrical cut. Yeah. And
maybe with a little book by Revelations on the production of the movie. That would be wonderful.
That would be incredible.
Because I know that they're gathering up, material on that for a possible project.
And all the extras that are possible on this, with all the people involved already.
Yeah.
We get some great extras on that, DVD and Blu-ray.
Yeah, and that's something we didn't really touch on, but the Occupy Midian group on Facebook has people from the movie in it. Like Ann Bobby, we were just talking to. She checks in on there, and she makes comments on there. Simon Bamford, who played Onaka, is actively posting on Occupy Midian. We've got, Nick Vince is a member of it also. And Russell Charrington checks in all the time and makes posts, and he's the guy that's putting together this cut. Mark Miller, who works directly for Clive and Seraphim Films, posts on there regularly too. So it's really there, and Russell and Mark Miller are admins of that as well. So this isn't just a fan thing. This is, it is, but it's also.
Yeah, I guess you can say it's, to some extent, it's officially sanctioned. Well, at least we have their blessing, I guess.
Yeah. It's been a really great thing to be a part of, and it's eaten up a lot more of my time than I expected, because
yes, that's true.
I keep hearing that, I'm at work and I keep hearing that little bloop, and it's like, oh, somebody's writing to me, or oh, I better check to see how many people I need to add into there, and it's like, oh, now there's 16 more people that want to be on there.
I think the first couple of days when we got this going, I don't think any of us got any sleep that night. We're just, okay, let's do this. We got to do this.
Yeah.
Jose was posting new pictures up, and it was just wonderful, really.
Yeah, that was really exciting. I admit I didn't have any sleep that night. I was just busy, we were writing and rewriting the description of the group, and and I told you guys, the the first time you guys came up with the idea, you're like, hey, Ryan said, I got this name Occupy Midian that N. Bobby said. And you're like, we should start a Facebook group. And then it was like, yeah, I'm going to bed. You guys do that and I'll join in later. And then, Roger immediately did it. And I was like, well, okay, then if you got it up, then I'm going to stay up.
Yeah, I was like, I don't know if I'm ready for that yet. And then suddenly, there's 200 people on there.
That's true. Wow, that was amazing. And, every time someone pops up in the wall and they say, hey, I write for this website, I just immediately send them a message and tell them, hey, go to the Revelations More Nightbreed page, and here's the Cabal cut Dub Doug video. And they go, oh, yeah, I'm going to add this to the article. So hopefully that makes a little difference. And,
And that's an important thing to think about, too, is that we're, this the name Occupy Midian is new, and there's a lot of good energy right now. But Phil and Sarah have been diligently following this push to get the director's cut since the beginning, since for years and years, and the place to get, and the best place to get Clive Barker news is always clivebarker.info, the site that they run.
Right. Can I just expand a little bit on how the whole tape thing got started with Mark Miller championing the cause? Mark Miller, you can see this in Revelations. There's a whole page of it. We'll put it in the episode notes. But Mark Miller was the guy who tirelessly started, contacting Clive, and then he went on to contact Morgan Creek. He started with a telephone call to Morgan Creek, and they told him, yes, we have the tapes, we have the footage, and we can access it at any time. And he was like, oh, that's wonderful. Then as the contacts progressed, from what I've read, it was like, well, we have the footage, but we're not interested right now. And then finally they were like, yeah, we looked for the footage and we can't find it. So
he never actually made it over there. He wanted to go over there and get it, and all these things were happening, and they these contacts, and he never actually was able to get over there and get it.
But then, of course, as Mark Miller works very closely with Clive, apparently they were looking at some tapes and stuff that they were sending back to England, because Phil and Sarah Stokes are the curators of Clive's archive. And so apparently they sent also with some of the stuff they were sending, they sent a couple of tapes that were just marked Nightbreed. And, so Mark Miller sent them the tapes, and they had the tapes for a while, then they viewed the tapes. And while they viewed one of them, that's when they announced it on the website, hey, we just found a tape with, all this footage of Nightbreed. And then in July of 2009, they said, hey, we found another one. So that's when they just digitized it, sent it back to Mark Miller and Clive Barker. And that's when the Horror Hound screening happened, which was just a VHS work print that was screened at the time.
And it was kind of an all mashed together of all of that footage, and not necessarily exactly in sequence, and there were probably repeated scenes, and it was muddy and hard to hear.
Because they said that there was at one point, one of the tapes had Eigerman die twice in the same cut. And I guess that after the talks with Morgan Creek progressed, with the whole team that's going on behind this, they decided, well, how about we do this cut? And Morgan Creek said, okay. So they started doing the cut. And that's where we are now with the Cabal cut, having a screening. And that's wonderful. I can't wait.
And that screening at Mad Monster Party, it's important to remember that at each venue, the people who run the festival or the convention or whatever it is have to call Morgan Creek, or they have to get Morgan Creek's permission to do the showing. So this is exciting, because this is the first time that Morgan Creek has allowed stuff and has been, has said, we want to gauge how much interest there is in this.
Mm-hmm. So they are definitely listening.
Yeah.
Right. So that's even better, because every time it gets a screening now, they're going to be like, oh, people are asking for more screenings. So they're going to be directly informed of this. That's wonderful. Mm-hmm. Yeah. You know what we should do? Just came up with this idea. You know what we should do? You remember Ann Bobby was talking about how Nightbreed fans should take a picture of themselves saying, hey, Occupy Midian.
Yeah.
I was just imagining taking a picture with a little paper in front of you saying my name is X and I am a Nightbreed fan, and I want to see this movie, and then at the end say, we are the tribes of the moon instead of we are the 1%.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
So that's another idea for you guys out there.
Yeah.
And I wanted to emphasize, too, that if you have like a vlog, video log, which people do like daily kind of diary videos, if you can, mention the director's cut, that would be great because YouTube is so big. And, I mean, everybody I know, they go on there at least once a day to check out a video or something. And, it would really spread the word quickly, especially YouTube.
And sometimes we get hung up on the names. I mean, Cabal cut or director's cut. It's all going to be sanctioned by Clive Barker by the time, it reaches the end anyway.
Yeah.
So, should we go on to the news?
Sure.
All right. So, normally we put the news at the beginning of this, but Anne had a limited amount of time, so we figured, best to use that talking about Occupy Midian and Nightbreed instead of having her kind of, chime in on the news, which there isn't a lot. So the first thing is Mick Garris wrote a book called Life in the Cinema, and the ebook edition of that came out. Have either of you guys read that?
No.
No, I haven't either.
Actually, I'm just hearing about it now. Thanks for letting me know.
No problem. Yeah, so that's there's probably some good anecdotes about working with Clive Barker, I'm sure.
Oh yeah.
The next thing is Clive's busy working on Aberrat 4, and he said that there's a deadline from the publisher, so we probably won't be seeing 7 years in between books. Yeah.
Just a question about Aberrat, because I think you're the one who told me this in one of the episodes. Mm-hmm. Is it true that Clive announced that he needed to do more paintings for Aberrat?
Yeah, and actually that was my next thing. On Twitter, he proposed the idea. Well, okay, yes. He said that he said on Twitter that he was thinking he might need to do 50 to 100 more paintings.
What?
Yeah.
God, you almost gave me a heart attack there.
I'm sorry. But, I don't know how many of those he would actually use, but...
Right, the book only has so many pages.
Yeah.
It's like, do you like sugar with your coffee, or do you like coffee with your sugar?
And I think it's kind of like he had it all kind of figured out in his mind, but now that we're, more than halfway through the series, there's probably things that he hadn't anticipated that he needs to, do paintings of. He had also mentioned on Twitter that he put forth the idea, if I do a big glossy book of paintings from that are all just of Aberrat, would you buy it? And it would be kind of like the Visions of Heaven and Hell. And he said, of course, it would be expensive because that Visions of Heaven and Hell was $50 when it came out.
Yeah, and it had few paintings. I mean, some of the paintings were taking up 2 pages, and sometimes they could have fitted a bit more paintings in there. But I'm not complaining. The book is amazing. I got it here. So
yeah. And and I think obviously the people on Twitter, most of them would say yes, because they're the people who follow him, they're fans. But yeah, I mean, definitely, I would say so. I would say yes. It would make another great Aberrat companion.
Like the unused paintings?
I don't know. He didn't specify because it was Twitter, so it was really short. But
that's a good point, Roger. I mean, I wonder how many of those paintings we're not going to get to see unless we are lucky like Ryan and visit his studio.
Well, I didn't. There was no time to look through all of those.
I know it's hundreds and hundreds, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't even know an estimate of how many paintings he did for Aberrat.
I walked into one room and I was just blown away because Christopher Carrion was just kind of sitting there leaning up against the wall.
Uh-huh.
And it's that painting of his face, with the collar and the little nightmares swimming around in there, and it's the one that we're all used to seeing. And it's like, whoa, my God, that's the original. And they're like, can I touch it?
Yeah.
So that was really cool, and to be able to see the how enormous the original Aberrat painting is.
Mm-hmm.
So next thing, He said in his interview. So if you go to clivebarker.info, there was a new interview at the end of March with Clive, and he had said that there had been some progress on negotiating the Aberrat movies, and he also said it would be non-Disney.
Yay!
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
So, I mean, Disney does all kinds of stuff, and it's not necessarily like, what you think about with Disney movies. So I wouldn't necessarily be upset if it was a Disney movie, but he has been having some trouble with negotiating with them. So maybe
I guess the only thing people sometimes don't like is that Disney doesn't go for a very risque kind of things.
Right.
So they have a tendency to sanitize them a little bit.
They have a lot of creative control, I think.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter which movie studio you're talking about. I think it's always the same, right? That whether it's Paramount or whatever. And
we all know what a lot of creative control from the studios will do to a movie, especially when you look at Nightbreed.
Yeah, and if there's not been a lot of progress, you can't blame Clive for being gun-shy about, having a bunch of studio executives deciding what his movie should be like. And speaking of Nightbreed, the next thing he talked about was that he was in talks about a cable TV series for Nightbreed. Yeah, and of course, being in talks and negotiating and saying that there's been some interest isn't the same thing as saying that it's going to happen. So we don't all want to get our hopes up and stand in line or anything, but it would be incredible. I know. I would probably buy it twice, right? I would buy it on iTunes because I don't really have cable, and then as each episode comes out, and then I would buy the DVD or Blu-ray set when that comes out.
Yeah, and I would buy props from menu.
it.
I'm just kidding.
No, you're not.
Well,
I didn't hear that. What was that?
No, I said, and I would buy props from it.
And Jose posted on Occupy Midian. You've got a prop of Lylesburg's necklace,
medallion.
Right? Yeah,
the necklace and the medallion,
which is also the key that you use to open the Berserker's cage. So everybody, be nice to Jose because he can unleash the Berserkers on you, and he'll say, "Go get them, boys."
Actually, go get them, boys. No, actually, I'm gonna probably break someone's heart, but props are built only to look good on camera, right? Yeah, I mean, well, you've seen the pictures, it looks good. I mean, even from close. But if you turn it around from the part that's not supposed to be facing the camera, you can see it's a cutout of a little PVC a plump pipe. Yeah. And then they put some silly putty on it and painted it to make the amp hang in a circle. And then the chain is just a regular chain you can buy from the hardware store. It's just a regular metal chain. It hasn't even been it's a little dirty, it's a little grimy. But sorry, guys, it's just a little PVC pipe section with a little putty on it. But still, that's pretty amazing. When I look at it, I get
You're killing the mystery.
But hey, it still opens. It still opens the cage, though, right?
I guess so. I haven't tried it because I fear for my life.
Hey, that reminds me. Do you guys know when Onaka yells at when he's just trying to distract the Berserkers so that they'll let go of Lori? I think he yells their names, right? It's like
he does.
Rage and Slaughter or something like that.
Well, you want me to tell you the names?
Yeah.
I got the script right here.
I didn't get that far in my reading last night.
All right, I found it. It says, Onaka, Lylesburg's fool, appears from down the corridor. He starts to rattle the chains further along the wall, and he says, "Hey, Ghost, hey, Slaughter, come and get me, come and get me." So it's Ghost and Slaughter.
Ghost and Slaughter.
And the Nightbreed Chronicles has the little backstory on them, too.
Yeah, which I thought was made up for the comic. The Hellraiser Nightbreed crossover comic book, but it turns out it's actually there already.
Yeah, it says that, I'll just read it really quickly. The Wilding, or Berserker, was developed by German occult scientists as a warrior class designed to exterminate the enemy. but they comprehended little and cared less for the niceties of battle lines. Within a month of their release, during which time their brutal nightly assaults achieved the status of legend, the German High Command ordered their dispatch as they were massacring at least as many German battalions as British. Several berserkers were indeed killed, but a handful under the hypnotic influence of a bastard son of Queen Catherine of all the Russians found their way to Midian, where they are kept in the deepest regions of the underworld, their appetite for massacre stoked by deprivation. So there you go. They're Nazi scientist creatures.
Yeah.
Are these like the Titans? Maybe I heard Bobby mention something about mythology.
Oh, that they would be like the Kraken, or
yeah, because I hadn't really thought about that before till she mentioned it, and I'm like
these uncontrollable juggernauts that you let loose.
Yeah, and they trapped them down below.
Yeah,
under the mountain.
Well, yeah, the Titans, but the Titans were more like giant people. Like the Titan Prometheus gave the mankind the gift of fire, and then they like chained them to a rock and had like a vulture eat his liver every day.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, that's actually a good question because all the Titans were like chained up in the underworld after a while. So I can see the parallel in that. Yeah.
So despite trying not to be, I'm really excited for the idea of a Nightbreed TV series.
Definitely, yeah. Just think of all the monsters they can do now. Every week,
man. Yeah.
Introduce like a new monster every week, and then they'd have, if that monster catches on, they can continue it. Yeah. Monsters nobody likes, they can kind of fade off, but you can continually refresh the monster aspect of it.
Oh yeah, because there's hundreds of Nightbreed.
Mm-hmm. Can I ask you guys a question? Mm-hmm. How would you see the continuation of the story? With the Nightbreed escaping from Midian and carrying the several bits of Baphomet. What would you see happening? Where would they go, and what kind of adventures they would have? I know you guys. Oh.
I would see it as Boone traveling around and running into pockets of Nightbreed and trying to find a place where the Nightbreed can live amongst the people above ground, and be accepted.
Oh, yeah, that's amazing. I always imagined Midian to be the only place where the breed were, but you're pretty right. I mean, the world's a big place. There would be a lot of breeds scattered around.
Yeah.
What about you, Roger?
Well, that's basically, that's...
and maybe he would be gathering
like
a piece of Baphomet each time, and maybe the pieces of Baphomet would give him some kind of wisdom, or... I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, that's I wonder what they would do if they do go forward with this.
Yeah.
I know I know where the comic went, but the comic kind of like... It started... At the beginning, it got a little weird, and then... They started when Nicholas Vince joined the comic, then it started getting some more coherence.
It got really good, and then they're like, "Oh, sorry, it's over." And he had to make this fake newspaper article in the beginning of the comic that laid out every single story that he wanted to write but wasn't able to.
Yeah, they even mixed in Rawhead Rex with the whole breed thing.
Yeah. Yeah, that was really cool, and sad, but. Yeah. That's the way it always is with comic books. They never, they always end when you're not ready for them to.
True.
So then the next piece of news isn't even, I don't know if this is even really news at all, but there was a little announcement about Hellraiser TV series, and it kind of looks like the rights holder is just throwing it out there, hoping that he can get somebody to help him make the Hellraiser TV series.
Yeah, I think it's being promoted by Sonar Entertainment or something.
Yeah. So all their advertising, all it says is it's Hellraiser, but it's on TV. And they've got a remote control with little pins Nails. In it. Yeah, and they're like the pins that you use for sewing, like what you'd see in a pin cushion, I think.
Well, I do like that little promotional picture, though. I thought that was pretty neat.
Yeah, with a profile shadow of the remote control makes the profile of Pinhead. So that's cool. I don't know. I hope they do it. But to be honest, go ahead, Roger.
As long as it's not network TV, because, Clive Barker stuff, this needs to be cable, to really convey his ideas, I think.
And it needs to have some kind of involvement from him or his company. The Hellraiser has gone so off the rails. And it gets really, I don't know how. I mean, Jonathan is really into the Hellraiser sequels and stuff, and I don't want to put that down, but I kind of feel like it's gone so far away from its original vision, and it's like when I hear of some new Hellraiser thing coming out, I don't get excited.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I started off by being a huge Hellraiser fan. I mean,
yeah,
that's much more than Nightbreed. I mean, but there was a lot more of Hellraiser than Nightbreed at the time. A lot more comics, a lot more movies.
Well, and Hellraiser 2 was good. I mean, it's flawed, like like the way Nightbreed is flawed. But Hellraiser 2 is good, and Hellraiser 1 is awesome. And I felt a lot of anticipation with Hellraiser 3, and then when it actually came out, I was a little disappointed.
But then over the years, of course, I realized that I'm not just a big Hellraiser fan. I'm a Clive Barker fan.
Yeah.
All its work is appealing to me. Yeah. And Clive hasn't been associated with Hellraiser for a long time. I mean, since 88 or 89. No, wait, since 1992 when he was executive producer of Hellraiser 3, right? After that, I don't think he was.
Yeah.
Maybe Hellraiser 4, Bloodline, but then he just kind of quit. And so,
and I don't.
Go ahead.
And I don't know if if anything will come of this, and if something comes, if it's going to be anything good. But I just hope that they can get Clive involved in it.
Well, the last time I heard about a TV show, the premise that they came up with was really, really cheesy. It was like Pinhead would join up with this software tycoon.
Yeah.
And they would have people solving the path to hell online or something. It was really cheap.
Yeah, that sounds cheap to make. Yeah, well, and it says it's all about Pinhead, and it's I bet Doug Bradley is reading that and going, "Oh, really?" Because what happened the last time they tried to do Pinhead without him.
Let's not go there.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. So I don't know. Oh, one more piece of news. I just kind of thought of this, but I believe that Mark Miller is either getting married today or tomorrow. So congratulations to you, Mark Miller.
Congratulations.
All right. Yeah, congratulations are in order. All right.
Yeah.
Like we said, Occupy Midian. Just do a search for the Facebook group Occupy Midian because it's too hard to read the address of that. It's got a bunch of numbers in it. The petition, please go sign the petition. It's www.ipetitions.com/petition/Nightbreed. And sign on there, and you can write a little blurb about why you want to see the extended cut of Nightbreed and how you want, tell them that you want to pay for it because that's you want to appeal to their business sense.
Yeah. That's what they respond to mostly, I guess.
Yeah, you can find this podcast online. Just do a search on iTunes. Just do a search on iTunes for the Clive Barker Podcast. Online, we're at www.clivebarkercast.com. Again, Ann Bobby's books were called Love Me or Leash Me and Best Friend for Life. And Best Friend for Life, the second book, actually has a picture of Clive Barker's dogs in there. Yeah, so that's cool. I've put them on my list for Amazon. There just isn't enough time in the day to get it. I had hoped to buy them and read them before this happened, but but they're on my Amazon list, so I'm going to buy them. I'm trying to think. Go to the forum www.timewins.com/Clive/forum. And that's where we talk about all things Clive Barker and also this podcast. There's a Facebook page for this podcast. We've got a Twitter @BarkerCast. Is there anything I'm missing?
I think you're pretty good there. So
all right.
Yeah, and then just finish up doing my Craig Sheffer impersonation. My name is Giselle Tung, and you're watching the Clive Barker broadcast. I think that was spot on, right?
Yeah. How about, this is Boone. You know what to do. Adios.
All right.
Okay.
Nice one, guys.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Okay, thanks. And me, dinner's on the table.
All right, have a good weekend.
All right, you too. Have a nice Easter, guys. Bye-bye.
Thanks.
You too. Bye-bye.
Hi, this is Ryan again. In the original airing of this episode, we had Lasagna by Weird Al Yankovic. Kind of a joke because of the pasta recipe. So anyway, in order to respect the rights holders, we've removed it from the episode, and I recommend you find Lasagna by Weird Al Yankovic and give it a listen. Thanks for understanding. And this podcast, having no beginning, will have no end.